cradle-to-grave schooling to make any sense of their days. Mass entertainment and mass journalism provide that tutelage long after school is done. Over a century ago, great industrialists, with the help of academics and politicians, set out to rewrite the laws of supply and demand. They knew that if centralized producers learned to create demand for whatever could be produced most efficiently, the moral world could be turned upside down and those dogs at the top could bark there forever. The problem of succession, which doomed Rome and every other empire in human history to date, would finally have found its solution. Thus, schoolrooms became laboratories of experimentation on young minds, research centers of scientific management. To be quit of this school nightmare demands first that we wake up to what our schools have evolved into. They are servants of corporate business and big government management. If you seek a change in schooling, you're going to first have to repudiate that fatal belief you have that if only government could be given more control, or only business, then all would sort itself out. In the United States, Mr. Nader was right. Both political parties work to exactly the same ends. There will be no relief from that quarter, from leapfrogging political parties. Another repudiation you're going to have to make is that you must begin to regard modern North America as neither a democracy or a republic. It is clearly an empire careening out of control, bent on projecting its own domestic controls to the entire planet. Now, what to do about this personally? Learn to be a saboteur of this thing. Throw sand in the gears of the machine wherever you can. There is no way to reform it. It does exactly what it was designed to do. Recognize the paradox of extended childhood, the blessings that it brings to managers while it curses your children, the prosperity it invests the economy with by converting spirits destined for independence into whining, greedy, bored children who define themselves by what they consume. That prize is too contemptible to be worth the cost when you next find yourself appalled by the infantile and irresponsible behavior you see all around you. Think of school as its forge and try to do something personally about it. Now, if you'd like to follow these arguments further, I have a 310,000-word book out at the book table. It's prior to the actual publication, so not many people have seen it yet, and although it's priced in American dollars, if any of you would like to own it, you can have it for the Canadian dollar equivalent. So it says $30 American, but it's $30 Canadian for today only. Don't tell anyone else I said that. Also, if you'd like to know what other projects I'm working on with some other people, go to my website, johntaylorgatto.com, and we'll be glad to hear from you. Thank you. God bless. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gatto. I was almost speechless. It's a dizzying tale that Mr. John Taylor Gatto has given us, a tale that I know for some of you is going to be hard to follow. It's a tough pill to follow. It's a bitter story to hear, and I'm so glad that he's talked about skepticism, because I think, in fact, when we do dig beneath the surface, what he says will find great truth in our own research. But as we have a saying that Sheikh Hamza often uses, let the dogs bark because the caravan is leaving and we have places to go. So the dogs that Mr. Gatto alluded to, who are barking up the tree of compulsory schooling, can continue to bark, because we have an antidote to this dilemma. Actually, we have many antidotes, and some of them appeared in front of you earlier today. We had 6 fine men and women who represented real, tried, true alternatives. We had a representative here from the Ontario Federation of Teaching Parents, and we'd like to welcome, actually, all the members of the Ontario Federation for Teaching Parents who are here tonight. They've set up a wonderful display outside. These are really courageous men and women and young children and families who are taking education into their own hands, and I hope all of you will take an opportunity to visit their wonderful booth outside and speak to some of their really fine representatives. We had representatives here from the Montessori tradition, from the Waldorf tradition, from the Sidwell Friends Quaker tradition, and also from our own Islamic traditions. Our next speaker tonight is not a stranger to most of you. He has come to Toronto many times, and every time he comes, mashallah, the community comes to listen to him. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf hails from California. He is presently the director of the Zaytuna Institute for Traditional Learning. Sheikh Hamza has himself had an incredible array of educational experiences that have taken him through private schools in the United States, that took him through universities in the Middle East, and finally took him to the place which he this morning told us was really a place where education was happening, in the wilds of the Sahara Desert, with men and women who were really committed to learning and living in communities of love and peace and tolerance together. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf has, since his return to North America several years ago, dedicated his life, and mashallah, there are many young men and women, older men and women, who too have committed their lives to creating educational alternatives within the Islamic ethos that reflect many of the values that John ended his talk on. Today, the Zaytuna Institute and many other organizations, including Dar al-Islam Foundation, Ihya Productions, and others, organize programs at a grassroots level to bring different methods of education that find their heart and soul in the tradition of our particular faith, a reality. Deen intensives, rehlas, junior deen intensives, and Arabic programs that seek to reconnect members of the Muslim community with their tradition. In many ways, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf is our version of John Taylor Gatto. Tonight, he's going to be following for where Mr. Gatto left off. And just in the same way as Mr. Gatto has given us that picture, we hope to take the next step. What do we do about it? Where do we go from here? Is there a vision that we can all share, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, as citizens of the same land and of the same country? Is there a vision that we can develop together that sees learning as something that really matters, that educates the heart and the mind, that creates dynamic citizens, that takes us to that vision of a good society that we all hope and pray that our children will have? Without any further ado, it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you my teacher, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf Hansen.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, prayers and peace be upon all of the prophets and upon our messenger, Prophet Muhammad. First of all, I want to say that one of the benefits for me about hearing what I just heard from somebody of not considerably, but an older age than I'm at, and more life experience and more teaching experience, can come to the conclusions that I came to, which makes me realize that I might not be crazy after all. And that in itself, I think, is one of the benefits of hearing an alternative perspective, is that what you surprisingly find is that there are actually many people out there that are having these same inklings. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with the present situation, the condition that we're in. And I think the primary reason for that is the extraordinary factor that is never placed into their equation, which is the human soul. This is not in the social engineer's equation. And I think the thing that sums it up best, there was a book written by a man named Crosby about, his basic thesis was that the incredible control that has taken place in the last 500 years is based on the ability to measure things. That human beings have obtained a power of measurement. They can measure the air. They can measure the ocean. They can measure the stratosphere. And measurement gives you power. In fact, the Arabic word to measure and to have power is the same word. But one of the verses in the Quran says, مَا قَدُّرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ. They didn't measure God. They didn't measure God. He's not in the equation. And one of the things that we see that is so prominent in modern society is the attempt to remove the sacred, whether it be Christian sanctity, whether it be Islamic, whether it be any type of vision of a sacred world. It is removed, and when it is included, it's included in a way that takes the teeth out of it. It's included in a way that makes it an object of study, as in anthropology. We can look at the quaint natives, the quaint beliefs that they held. I took a course in the university called Magic, Religion, and Science. And you can see from the order where they were taking you. In other words, we lived in a magical period where people believed that there were gods up on Mount Olympus and they did extraordinary things. And then we moved to the religious period, a little more rationalism, introducing elements that the intellect could share, but still retaining fragments of that previous period, the magical period. So the belief in angels, despite the fact that every culture on this planet has some concept of the angelic realm. Coincidence. That every culture on this planet has some concept of the demonic realm. And every traditional culture on this planet has some concept of the sacred realm. But these are remnants. And then the religious period was superseded by the rational scientific period. And then the religious person becomes irrational. As if irrationality was not part of the human makeup. Human beings have irrational elements. Why do you fall in love? Is there anything rational about falling in love? And yet a large part of my life has been affected by the fact that I fell in love with a woman. And it was a completely irrational event. I couldn't tell you why it happened. I couldn't even tell you how it happened. But it happened, and I've got some children running around as a result. It was irrational. But it was one of the best things that I ever did. So we do irrational things, and we shouldn't be ashamed of those irrational things that we do if there's some type of satisfaction that comes out of it. If there's some meaningful event, if there's some purpose, if it fulfills something